Take an inspiring journey through the pages of the Bible to explore the lesser-known details and nuances of the truths concealed in the scriptures. Discover overlooked patterns, clues, and revelations hidden in the ancient Hebrew language. In Pastor Gerald's new book, Elucidations. Get your copy today. Available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Biblical elucidation. To make something that is hard to understand, clear, or easy to understand. We're talking about biblical things. Those things in the Bible that seem tough. We're going to break it down, show you the real, what's going on with those. Biblical elucidation.
The Bible shares with us a couple of very intimate moments in Jesus' prayer life, one of which is when Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. This prayer is found in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, also called the Synoptic Gospels. We will concentrate on the most detailed of the Gospel accounts of Jesus' prayer in Gethsemane, which is found in the book of Matthew. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt." Matthew 26:39. It is paramount that we pay close attention to the meticulous details that are given in this verse. This verse explicitly reveals that the type of prayer that Jesus prayed was palau prayer. Remember that to palau pray is to fall down and speak to God. Matthew puts emphasis on palau prayer by stating Jesus went a little further and fell on his face and prayed. It is extremely important that we keep Jesus' teaching of the model prayer in mind, because when Jesus taught the disciples to pray, he stated, when you palau, pray like this, Our Father. And lo and behold, what are the first words of Jesus' prayer in Gethsemane? Oh, my Father. Jesus follows the very pattern that he set in the model prayer. Jesus continues praying, if it be possible. He prayed, if it be possible, not to ask the Father if there's another means other than for him to die, but to ask if there be any other way for mankind to be redeemed. Let this cup pass from me. The real questions should be, in what ways have mankind previously been redeemed in the Bible? And what Jewish custom gives us further insight that there is more than meets the eye going on here? We must search the scriptures to discover these clues, because it is essential that we come to realize that Jesus is not praying from the flesh, nor is he weak in his spirit. Jesus has not given into the natural human desire to avoid pain and suffering. Neither is he in conflict with his Father, the will of God. Such teachings are erroneous because the Bible makes it evident that there is no possible way that Jesus could have been referring to his death on the cross as the cup that he desired to pass from him, because Jesus already knew that there was no way to evade his death on the cross. Prophecies of Jesus' crucifixion had already been foretold in the beginning in Genesis 3:15, and then in great detail in the 22nd Psalm, and in Zechariah 12:10. Jesus himself had already foretold the disciples of the very details of his death and resurrection in several written biblical accounts, such as, from that time forth began Jesus to shew unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Matthew 16:21. And while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said unto them, The Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. And they were exceeding sorry. Matthew 17:22 and 23. And Jesus, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples apart in the way, and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death, and shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. Matthew 20, verses 17 through 19. And it came to pass, when Jesus finished all these sayings, that he said unto his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Matthew 26, verses 1 and 2. And in John chapter 12, verses 23 and 24, and chapter 17. John also reveals in the book of Revelation that Jesus was to be slain from the very founding of the cosmos. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Revelation 13:8. So it is evident that Jesus is not praying to the Father asking to escape the cross. We know this to be true. Jesus not only came to fulfill the prophecies that foretold of this very necessary event, but Jesus also prayed it. Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this cause came I unto this hour. John 12:27. Therefore, Jesus' prayer cannot even remotely have been to neglect the fulfillment of scriptures, down to the very details that he himself foretold of being delivered unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, being condemned to death and delivered to the Romans, mocked, scourged, spat on, killed, and on the third day rise again from the dead. These truths force us to admit the inaccuracies of the traditional teaching that the humanity of Jesus was crying out in fear of his death on the cross, especially when we consider that many armed service members today sacrifice themselves without thought for others every day. Is Jesus not greater than us? Indeed, he is. Jesus then ends his words of prayer with, nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. He went again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. Matthew 26, verse 42. And he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Matthew 26:44. These are the very words which Jesus said in his prayer. All three writers of the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, penned almost identical accounts of the words Jesus prayed, thus forcing us to realize that Jesus prayed for only a few seconds, an idea that he taught the disciples prior to teaching them the model prayer. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Matthew 6:7. Upon realizing the conciseness of Jesus' prayer, as revealed by not only Matthew, but also Mark and Luke, it teaches us that prayer is not only the words that we speak to God, but also the time we spend listening to what the Father says in response. The Bible wants us to catch on to this because it specifically tells us that Jesus prayed for 1 hour. So, I need you to do me a huge favor. I need you to time me praying Jesus' prayer. Begin counting for me in 3, 2, 1. O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. How long did it take me to pray Jesus' prayer? I counted about 7 seconds. This means that Jesus spoke in prayer for only 7 seconds and then remained quiet, attentively listening for the Father's response for the remaining 59 minutes and 53 seconds. Hence the reason for Jesus putting so much emphasis on his desire for the disciples to stay awake. Not saying, could you not pray with me? But could you not watch with me 1 hour?
Take an inspiring journey through the pages of the Bible to explore the lesser-known details and nuances of the truths concealed in the scriptures. Discover overlooked patterns, clues, and revelations hidden in the ancient Hebrew language in Pastor Gerald's new book, Elucidations. Get your copy today. Available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thank you for listening. Did you know that you can automatically receive biblical elucidation directly on your device weekly by subscribing on iTunes, Google Play Music, or iHeartRadio? We would love to hear your feedback, comments, and questions on our Facebook page at Biblical Elucidation. Please leave us a review on iTunes. This really helps other believers like you find this podcast.